Danielle also allegedly heard Hegseth make some grotesque statements. At one point, Danielle said that she heard Hegseth say that women shouldn't have the right to vote and they shouldn't work. Other times, he made rude comments about women's looks and once stated that he never used condoms, it says.
Ooh, based. Pete Hegseth being based AF. So we're back on the Young Turks with Ana and Cenk talking about the confirmation hearings for Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. And of course, it's total drama. It's like the telenovela, soap opera stuff that goes on always on these occasions when anybody is being confirmed by the Senate. It's just total nonsense all around. I have no idea if any of this stuff is true, what they're saying about Hegseth. Apparently his wife says that she doesn't have a problem with him, but it's his wife's sister, his sister-in-law who is making these comments. Oh, assassinating Pete Hegseth's character. I have no idea what the truth is, but I do find it amusing because it's just pure Americana. And I hope to my fellow European listeners, let me know what you think. As you know, I'm based in Belgium. I'm American. I was born and raised in America, but I've lived in Belgium for over 30 years. So whenever I look over the take a look at what's going on in the American political scene and I see this kind of stuff, it just makes me laugh. Seeing it from the outside and from a distance of, a physical distance and a distance of years just brings a smile to my face. Let's get into it, see what Ana and Cenk of the Young Turks have to say.
Hegseth is now facing some heat from his former sister-in-law. In fact, his former sister-in-law has now provided members of the Senate with a sworn affidavit that alleges that he mistreated his second wife and was volatile and threatening during the course of their relationship. So it's very similar to other allegations that we've heard about Pete Hegseth. It's similar to the email that Pete Hegseth's own mother had written to him in regard to the way he treats women. But here's what you need to know based on the latest update to this story. So the affidavit was written by a woman by the name of Danielle Hegseth. She is the sister of Pete's second wife, Samantha Hegseth. Now you might be wondering, why does she have the same last name as them? Like, what's going on? Well, it turns out she actually married Pete Hegseth's brother and has since divorced. Now, the reason why, now Pete and Samantha were married for 8 years between 2010 and 2018, and they have 3 children together. Now, in the affidavit, Danielle claims that Pete Hegseth passed out on multiple occasions from drinking too much, from alcohol abuse. On Christmas Day, she provides that as an example. It was either in 2000 or 2009, according to the affidavit, where he drank so much that he threw up and passed out. I'm gonna go ahead and give him a pass on that. It's Christmas, people overdo it, it's not the end of the world, but the allegations get a lot more serious. She also claims that he drank too much and passed out in the bathroom of a Minneapolis bar in 2013.
Well, who hasn't done that? I mean, come on.
But let's get to the more serious allegations. So per the affidavit, Samantha once told Danielle that she hid from Pete Hegseth, her husband at the time, out of fear for her safety. So she says this to her sister somewhere in either 2014 or 2016. Samantha also created a code word to use in case she needed a relative to come and help her because of Pete Hegseth's behavior. She sent that code to Danielle in either 2015 or 2016. So while Danielle states that she never saw Pete Hegseth emotionally or physically abuse Samantha firsthand, she says that she herself was once emotionally abused by him. So let's get to the details on that, as reported by the Wall Street Journal. So she said he drunkenly yelled in her face in 2009 after she walked out of a room when he was telling a story that she had a racial, that said had a racial slant. So she didn't like the story. She said it had a racial slant. She said he was in the military uniform, became very aggressive and yelled at her long enough that another person whose name is redacted had to pull him away.
Oh my God, it's literally like watching some kind of soap opera or some kind of school gossip. Did you hear what Jenny said to Susie about Amy? It's like she said he drunkenly yelled in her face in 2009. Well, it's 2025 now, so it's going on 16 years ago. Um, yeah, I'm sure I probably did some drunken yelling in 2009 too, you know. Telling a story that had a racial slant. Okay, we used to call those like an off-color story or an off-color joke. Yeah, you know, men used to tell off-color jokes, you know, actual men and off-color stories, and they still do. And he was in uniform and became aggressive and yelled at her. Wow. So this is the kind of character, you know, the kind of witness they bring up to assassinate the character of a man like Pete Hegseth during his Senate confirmation hearing. Oh, it's just hilarious.
Danielle also allegedly heard Hegseth make some grotesque statements. At one point, Danielle said that she heard Hegseth say that women shouldn't have the right to vote and they shouldn't work. Other times, he made rude comments about women's looks and once stated that he never used condoms.
He never used condoms. Is that a bad thing? Is that a bad statement? He never used condoms? What's bad about that? Made rude comments about women's looks? To be honest, I've heard more rude comments about women's looks from women throughout my life than from men. Men make comments about women, obviously, but I've heard, when it's like rude comments about women's looks, I've heard plenty of them from women. Yeah, you know, men can be rude too. People can be rude. Yes, people can be rude about how other people look. It's not particularly nice, but yeah, people can be rude, including nice people. Wow.
It says. Danielle Hegseth also said that she heard him say Christians need to have more children to overtake the Muslim population. So there's more to this, including Pete Hegseth's now ex-wife coming out to release a statement about what her sister has provided members of the Senate. But before we get to that, Cenk, I want you to jump in.
Yeah, so lots of thoughts in different directions here. I don't love that this person's coming out with this, even though I agree with what she's saying largely. So let me break it down into a couple categories. First of all, I don't need to know about his condom use at all. Okay, so keep that personal stuff out of this. The reason why I don't love the revelation is because the ex and Hegseth have some deal that they made when they got divorced. They want to protect the kids and they want it to be private. So now it's no longer private, and she didn't ask for permission from the ex, who was her friend, right, to out all of this. On the other hand, look, guys, we have nonsense conversations in media all the time and in Washington. Nobody ever talks about what's real and obvious, right? So does Pete Hegseth have a drinking problem? There's no question in the world that he had one. I don't know if it's continuing, but he had a serious drinking problem according to almost everybody who's commented on it, right?
Right.
So to pretend that he didn't have one is absurd. It's totally absurd. And every Republican out there is pretending he didn't have one when it's obvious he did. Okay, does he have sexist and misogyny issues? Well, I'm sure that if you're a right winger, you'll say no. There's a lot of right wingers who say I don't. You could tell them the most sexist thing in the world, they'll say it's perfectly fine, right? There's plenty of right wingers who will be bothered by some of the sexist and misogynistic things that he does. But has he done those things? Of course, absolutely has, yeah. Right? So from women who work with him, women who were married to him, women who know him, this is obviously a significant issue for Hegseth. I'm worried about that because there are going to be literally hundreds of thousands of women who report to him as their boss. There's 3 million people.
Hundreds of thousands of women are not going to report to Pete Hegseth as their boss. What on earth are you talking about, Cenk? He's going to be the Secretary of Defense. You know, even if he was going to be a top general in the army or something, it's not all those people, it's not all those soldiers who report to him. The whole thing's nonsense.
People in the Pentagon, that's a giant problem, let alone women who serve in combat that he's doesn't appear to be in favor of. Is he qualified? He's obviously not qualified. The senators asked, the Democratic senators actually did a very good job of asking him some specific questions about the Defense Department, and he had no earthly idea, didn't even bother studying. Like some basic questions. So number 4, why is he picked in the first place? Because Trump saw him on Fox News and liked him, liked his looks, liked what he had to say. These are so obvious.
Central casting, that's all that matters.
Casting.
And look, you can be supportive of Donald Trump and like overall cheerlead his entire agenda without greenlighting every single person he nominates to be in his cabinet. This is a bad pick, period. It's just a bad pick. I mean, he is just surrounded by controversy. His past statements and actions keep coming back to haunt him.
Which actions, apparently, because all I've heard prior to this today is about anonymous allegations were made. In the previous weeks, all these anonymous allegations were reported, but no actual provable allegations were made by any specific person, and therefore there are no allegations of anything bad, or there is no proof of anything bad he's done.
I feel terrible for his ex-wife because I totally agree with you, Cenk. It is clear to me that as part of their divorce, they signed a deal, that all these, nasty details wouldn't come out to the public because they have 3 kids. It's really damaging to kids when they hear about these things. And so I just think this is hard on his family, hard on his kids, okay? It's terrible for, the Trump administration in terms of confirming this guy. He's the top person to have an issue with when it comes to Donald Trump's nominees. And he's not. He is not credible, or I shouldn't say credible. Well, you could say credible, but not experienced for this incredibly important role. This is.
Well, it raises a good question. I mean, what experience should you have to be Secretary of Defense? It's a good question. I mean, he did serve in the military. He was, I believe, a special forces operator of some kind, if I'm not mistaken. Now, that doesn't necessarily, obviously, doesn't mean you'd be a good Secretary of Defense, but what would make you a good Secretary of Defense? What is a good Secretary of Defense? And yeah, I mean, if he doesn't know that, if during his confirmation he's shown that he doesn't know how the department is organized, yeah, that's kind of lame. He could have studied for that. But I don't know. I think I don't see the problem with appointing someone like him. Yeah, the controversy, in some ways, the controversy is good. It's kind of like Trump, Trump just shrugs off all controversy. He just doesn't care, He shrugs it off, and maybe Pete Hegseth will do the same thing. Will he be good at the job? Who knows? That I have no idea. But I don't think he's particularly disqualified for the job, frankly, because what are the qualifications? If he can lead, if he can provide leadership, provide a vision, or sort of implement Trump's vision, whatever that is, for the Department of Defense, and therefore the military. And hopefully, if you're watching this channel, I think you'll have a pretty good idea of the kind of vision I would like to see implemented in defense in the United States. Getting rid of all the, basically get back to being a fighting force of real competent people, and get rid of all the DEI, the affirmative action, all the transgender stuff, all that stuff. Get back to reality, in other words. Why not? I mean, his job would be to be a leader, to provide leadership, not to do the hands-on day-to-day stuff. That's what the guys in the military actually do, the generals, and then all the guys below them. So anyway, let me know what you think. Frankly, I think the controversy surrounding him is good. I think it's good. Let's see what happens. But yeah, as I was saying, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm always very interested to hear from you. I've been reading all the comments, and I reply to a fair number. So even if you disagree with what I have to say, please feel free to say so. Just keep it respectful, and I will engage. No problem at all. And in the meantime, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.